the entire PMBOK 8th edition in about 8 minutes. Everything that you need to know about this PMBOK standard if you are a PMP exam aspirant and you are planning to write the PMP exam after July 2026, because this is when the PMP exam transitions from the PMBOK 7th edition to the PMBOK 8th edition. Let's get started. Alright, let's start with what actually changed in the PMBOK 8th edition, right? So firstly, the PMBOK 8th edition, as before, has been split into two separate books, okay? The standard for project management, which is an official ANSI standard, and the PMBOK guide itself. Now this separation is intentional and strategic, and it follows the same principle in which PMBOK 6 and the PMBOK 7 were written and structured. However, this should not matter to you much because as a PMP exam candidate, both of these standards would be important and relevant for you. Secondly, and this is really the game changer, PMI has moved away from the traditional 10 knowledge areas that we have been knowing for decades now, and they have introduced 7 performance domains instead. Now, why does this matter, right? Because the focus has now shifted from what tasks needs to be done as a project manager to how everything connects and integrates together in an overall project management scenario. Make sense? Next, number 3, the definition of the project has changed in PMBOK 8th edition. Previously, we thought about projects as initiatives delivering on time, on budget, and meeting the scope as defined, right? However, now it's very value centric. So if your project doesn't deliver value, it doesn't matter if you are on time or on budget, right? So the hierarchy is very simple. 6 principles guiding everything, 7 performance domains organizing the work, and 5 process groups executing the 40 processes. Now, let's talk about the 6 principles which are the absolute foundation of PMBOK 8th edition. So these principles act as an umbrella that covers every method, every process, and every decision you make as a project manager, okay? So these 6 principles are divided into 3 groups in PMBOK 8th edition. First, let's talk about the value-driven group. Principle number 1, focus on value. If your project doesn't deliver value, it doesn't matter whether you delivered on budget or on time. You have failed as a project manager, period. The second principle is integrate sustainability. And as the name suggests, this goes beyond just environmental aspects, right? We are talking about the environment, the society, and the economy as a whole, okay? So for example, if you are building an airport and bringing thousands of workers in a small town, where will they live? What will be the social impact? That's sustainability thinking, right? The second group is the proactive group. Principle number 3, holistic view. So this means you do not just focus on your project in isolation, okay? You think about the surrounding ecosystem, the indirect consequences, the trade agreements, the tariffs, everything that impacts your project. Principle number 4, embed quality. Now, quality is not a phase or a checklist item, right? So we have known this from PMBOK 7 and PMBOK 6 as well. So in this part of the PMBOK 8, it is embedded into every process and every deliverable you produce as a project manager. Finally, the ownership group. Principle number 5, accountable leadership. So you are not just a leader. You are the founder of your project. It's your problem, your responsibility, and your ownership. So as a project manager, the buck stops at you. And principle number 6, empowerment culture. So you don't micromanage, right? You empower your team to think, to decide, and to take ownership alongside you as the project manager who is guiding and mentoring. So these 6 principles guide everything else that follows. Moving on, let's understand the 7 performance domains, which replaced the old 10 knowledge areas. Now these are called domains because they represent areas of activity, right? Not isolated knowledge silos, okay? So the 7 domains are governance, scope, schedule, finance, stakeholder, resources, and risks. So here is what's very critical for you to understand, okay? Governance sits at the center, or let's say at the beginning, okay? It's the integration hub that connects all the other domains together. Think of it like this, okay? So when you manage a scope change, it immediately impacts your schedule, your finances, your resources, your risks, and your stakeholders, right? So everything is interconnected as part of this overall landscape, which PMBOK 8 is trying to explain to us. So this is, let's say, the juggling the balls concept, where you are not managing one ball at a time, but you are managing 7 balls of principles simultaneously, and they are all interconnected. A change in one of the domain creates a ripple effect across all the others. So this integration mindset is what PMBOK 8 is trying to reinforce with us as project managers. Now moving on, let's quickly understand how the 40 processes are distributed across the 5 process groups, right? So as you see, initiating has 2 processes. So you initiate the project and identify your stakeholders. Very simple. Planning has about 19 processes. So this is the most process heavy group, right? And it has stayed process heavy over PMBOK 6 and the PMBOK 7th editions as well. So for example, you develop your project management plan and you create plans for each of the performance domains, i.e. scope, schedule, cost, quality, resources, communication, risks, stakeholders, and procurement, right? So executing has about 8 processes. So you manage the project work and you execute the plans across all the domains. Monitoring and controlling has 10 processes. So you monitor the performance across all the domains and manage changes through integrated change control. Finally, closing has just 1 process, which is to close the project or the phase. See, the pattern is very simple, okay? Everything connects to everything via the inputs, tools and techniques, and the outputs, i.e. the ITTOs, as we have already seen over PMBOK 7 and PMBOK 6. And of course, it's not linear, right? It's iterative and integrated. So for example, when you monitor scope, you are also checking the schedule. When you are controlling costs, you are also managing the risks. So everything happens in a cohesive and interconnected manner. So how does everything work together in practice, in project management, in real life, right? So let me give you an example. Imagine your stakeholder requests a scope change, and that scope change immediately impacts your schedule. You will need more time for sure, right? Now, more time means additional costs. So your finance is impacted. Also, additional work requires more resources. So your resource domain is also affected. And with more complexity, your risks increase as well. So do you see how one change in scope created a ripple effect across the 5 different domains? That's the integration mindset PMBOK 8th edition wants you to develop as a PMP exam candidate and overall as a project manager. So the flow is very simple. The 6 principles guide your thinking, the 7 performance domains organize your work, and the 5 process groups with the 40 processes execute that work in an integrated and cohesive manner. The critical mindset shift here is moving from just completing the processes to delivering value through integrated management. It's not about ticking the boxes, as you have seen. It's about juggling multiple priorities and multiple domains simultaneously while keeping the value delivery of a project at its core center. So that's the entire PMBOK 8th edition in its bare bones. Just what you need to help you get started with your PMP exam preparation. Remember, this is all about value integration and sustainability, not just processes and checklists, which PMBOK 6 and PMBOK 7 used to focus on. By the way, if you have liked the infographics that I have shared across the video, there will be a link down below if you wish to download the same for your exam preparation or as part of your revision notes, okay? It's a freebie from me for you. If you're preparing for the PMP exam, remember that the PMBOK 8th edition will be included from July 2026 onwards in the PMP exam syllabus. So this knowledge of PMBOK 8 is non-negotiable for you. If you have found this video helpful, please like, share this video and subscribe to this channel. It helps me to understand that you value such educational content on YouTube and motivates me to create more videos like this for you. I'll see you again in the next one.